Nathan Reed stared at the holographic business card floating above his desk, its ethereal blue light casting shadows across the scattered case files. Lyra, Meridian Emotional Insight Specialist, it read in both English and the flowing script of her native language. He'd been reluctant to hire a telepath, but after 3 weeks of dead ends in the Morrison case, he was out of options. The victim, Dr. James Morrison, had been found in his private lab, his quantum computing research scattered around him like fallen leaves. No signs of forced entry, no weapon found, and security cameras conveniently malfunctioning during the time of death. The case reeked of professional intervention, but Nathan couldn't prove it without help. The soft chime of his office door pulled him from his thoughts. Standing in the doorway was a figure that immediately commanded attention, not through intimidation, but through an almost musical quality to her presence. Lyra stood about 5'8", her skin a pale lavender that seemed to shimmer slightly in the afternoon light. Her features were remarkably human-like, save for the intricate patterns that swirled across her temples and disappeared into her silver-white hair. "Mr. Reed," she said, her voice carrying an unusual resonance that seemed to echo in his chest. "Your thoughts are quite loud today." Nathan straightened in his chair, uncomfortable with the idea of being read so easily. "Ms. Lyra, thank you for coming. Please, have a seat." She moved with fluid grace, settling into the chair across from him. "Just Lyra is fine. And you prefer Nathan to Mr. Reed, you associate formality with distance, and distance with safety." She tilted her head, studying him with eyes that shifted between silver and violet. An interesting defense mechanism for a private investigator. Nathan felt his jaw tighten. "I'd prefer if we could focus on the case." "Of course," Lyra replied, a slight smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "Though you should know that emotional barriers only make your thoughts more interesting to read, like whispers in a quiet room." He pushed the case file across the desk, trying to ignore the way his skin tingled when their fingers briefly touched as she reached for it. Dr. James Morrison, quantum computing researcher. Found dead in his lab 3 weeks ago. No signs of struggle, but definitely murder. Toxicology found a synthetic compound that stopped his heart. Lyra's fingers traced the crime scene photos, her eyes half closing. "There's residual emotion here, even in these images. Fear, but not panic. Recognition. Betrayal." She looked up at Nathan. "You believe this was professional?" "I do. But I can't prove it. That's where you come in. I need you to visit the crime scene, see if you can pick up any emotional imprints that might lead us to the killer." Emotional archaeology, Lyra mused. Delicate work. And expensive. Nathan reached for his tablet to discuss payment, but Lyra raised a hand to stop him. "Before we discuss terms, you should know something. My species doesn't just read surface thoughts and emotions, we experience them. To help you, I'll need to form a temporary emotional link. It's intimate work." The way she said "intimate" made Nathan's pulse quicken, a reaction he was sure she could sense. "What exactly does that mean?" Lyra leaned forward, and Nathan caught a scent like rain and electricity. "It means that while I help you solve this case, I'll be experiencing your emotions as if they were my own. Your curiosity, your determination." She paused, her eyes meeting his. "Your attraction." Nathan swallowed hard. "And you're okay with that?" "More than okay," Lyra replied, a hint of amusement in her voice. "In fact, I find human emotions fascinating. Particularly yours, they have an unusual depth, like layers of music playing simultaneously." He should have felt violated by such personal observation, but instead, Nathan found himself intrigued. "And what else do you find fascinating about human emotions?" "The way you try to hide them," she said softly. "The way you feel one thing and say another. The complexity of your connections." She stood, smoothing her silvery dress. "Shall we begin tomorrow? The crime scene's emotional imprints will be stronger in the morning." Nathan nodded, trying to maintain his professional demeanor despite the electricity humming between them. "Tomorrow." First thing. As Lyra moved toward the door, she paused. Oh, and Nathan. Don't bother trying to shield your thoughts from me. I find your unfiltered emotions much more appealing. After she left, Nathan sat in his office for a long time, wondering if he'd just hired a partner in investigation or invited chaos into his carefully ordered life. Either way, he had a feeling things were about to get very interesting. The morning sun cast long shadows through Dr. Morrison's laboratory as Nathan watched Lyra work. She moved through the space with her eyes closed, fingers trailing along surfaces, occasionally pausing to press her palm flat against a wall or piece of equipment. Her silver-white hair caught the light, creating an ethereal halo around her head. The emotions here are complex, she murmured, stopping near Morrison's main workstation. Anxiety lingered in this space long before his death. He was protecting something. Nathan approached, careful to maintain some distance. Even so, he could feel the strange electrical charge that seemed to emanate from her. His research? Lyra's eyes opened, their color shifting to a deep purple. More than that. There's an imprint of determination here, mixed with fear. Not just professional concern, personal stakes. She turned to face him, her expression troubled. He was trying to prevent something catastrophic. The quantum encryption algorithms he was developing, Nathan said, pulling out his tablet. His colleagues mentioned he'd been working odd hours, but they assumed it was normal researcher behavior. Lyra stepped closer to him, and Nathan felt his heart rate increase. She noticed too, a slight smile playing at her lips. Your pulse quickens when I'm near. Is that discomfort or attraction? We should focus on the case, Nathan deflected, though they both knew she could read the truth in his thoughts. The case is about emotions, Nathan, she said softly. Fear, desire, betrayal, they're all connected. Including yours. She reached out and touched his temple gently. Your mind is fascinating. So many layers of control, yet underneath. She trailed off, her eyes widening slightly. What? Nathan asked, finding it hard to focus with her this close. There's something here, an emotional echo that resonates with yours. She moved away suddenly, crossing to Morrison's desk. He was lonely too. Isolated. Not just by his work, but by choice. He thought it would keep others safe. Nathan followed her, professional curiosity temporarily overriding his awareness of their proximity. Safe from what? Lyra's hands moved over the desk surface, her breathing becoming slightly irregular. Corporate espionage. But not normal industrial theft. The encryption algorithms he was developing, they were meant to protect against something specific. Something. She gasped, stumbling slightly. Nathan caught her arm, steadying her. The moment their skin made contact, he felt a jolt of her emotions, fear, urgency, and something else, something warmer that seemed directed at him. Quantum consciousness integration, she whispered. He found a way to integrate quantum computing with consciousness-based systems. Like my species' telepathy, but artificial. That would be worth killing for, Nathan said, still holding her arm, finding himself unwilling to break the connection. Lyra turned to face him, their faces inches apart. It's more than that. In the wrong hands, it could be used to manipulate thoughts, emotions, memories. To rewrite the very essence of what makes someone who they are. How do you know all this from emotional imprints? She smiled sadly. Because I can feel his pride in the discovery, his terror at its implications, and his determination to destroy it rather than let it be weaponized. Her hand came up to cover his where it still rested on her arm. Emotions tell stories, Nathan. They're how we truly communicate, even when we don't mean to. Like how your concern for this case is genuine, but it's also tangled with your curiosity about me. Nathan started to pull away, but she held his hand in place. Don't, she said. Your emotional honesty is refreshing. Most humans try to hide everything they feel. You hide too, but not from yourself. Never from yourself. Is that why you took this case? He asked, finally voicing the question that had been nagging at him. To study human emotions. I took this case because someone died protecting something important, she replied. But I won't deny that you're becoming an increasingly fascinating part of the investigation. She released his hand and stepped back. We should check the underground tech markets. If someone's trying to develop this technology, they'll need specialized equipment. Equipment that leaves traces. Nathan nodded, trying to regain his professional composure. I know some contacts in the gray market. But it could be dangerous. Lyra's eyes sparkled with amusement. Are you worried about me, Nathan Reed? How sweet. She moved toward the door, then paused. Though you should know, my species is quite capable of defending ourselves. And I'm particularly motivated to keep you safe. As they left the lab, Nathan couldn't help but wonder if he was getting in too deep, not just with the case, but with the enigmatic telepath who seemed to see right through every wall he'd ever built. The strange thing was, he wasn't sure he minded anymore. The underground tech market thrummed with energy beneath the streets of Los Angeles. Holographic displays flickered in makeshift stalls, casting multicolored shadows across faces both human and alien. Nathan led Lyra through the narrow passages, acutely aware of how she stayed close to him, her shoulder occasionally brushing his. The emotional residue here is chaotic, Lyra murmured, her voice barely audible above the market's buzz. So many secrets, so much desire and fear intermingled. Nathan guided her toward a particular stall, where a woman with cybernetic eyes was tinkering with quantum processors. Jasmine, he called out. We need to talk. Jasmine looked up, her mechanical irises whirring as they focused. Reed. Didn't expect to see you with a meridian. She nodded at Lyra. No offense, but your kind usually stays away from places like this. Too much emotional noise. I find it fascinating, Lyra replied, studying the woman. Your cybernetics, they're quantum compatible. Recent upgrade? Jasmine's artificial eyes narrowed. Maybe. What's it to you? We're looking into Dr. Morrison's murder, Nathan said quietly. Someone's been buying up specialized quantum computing components. The kind that could interface with consciousness-based systems. Sorry to hear about Morrison, Jasmine said, her tone genuinely sad. He was one of the good ones. Used to come down here sometimes, warning us about corporate vultures trying to weaponize his research. She glanced around before continuing. There has been unusual activity. New buyer, deep pockets. They're collecting pieces for something big. As Jasmine spoke, Lyra suddenly gripped Nathan's arm. He turned to find her face pale, her eyes unfocused. Lyra? So much pain, she whispered. Someone here, they're carrying guilt. Heavy guilt. About Morrison. Her eyes snapped to a figure retreating through the crowd. There. Nathan started to move, but Lyra held him back. Wait, she said. Let me. She closed her eyes, concentrating. The retreating figure stumbled, then turned around, walking back toward them as if in a trance. What did you do? Nathan asked, amazed. Emotional suggestion. A specialty of my people. She studied the approaching man, human, middle-aged, with haunted eyes. He was there. The night Morrison died. The man stopped before them, trembling. I didn't want to, he said. They made me let them in. Said they'd kill my daughter if I didn't disable the security systems. Later, in Nathan's office, after questioning the security guard and recording his statement, Lyra sat perched on the edge of his desk. The setting sun painted the room in amber tones, softening her alien features. You're troubled, she said, watching Nathan pace. Not just about the case. He stopped, running a hand through his hair. You've been in my head for days now. Reading every thought, every emotion. Doesn't that bother you? Why would it? She tilted her head. Your mind is beautiful, Nathan. Complex, yes. Wounded in places, but strong. You carry old pain, your partner's death during that stakeout 5 years ago. The guilt you still feel, though it wasn't your fault. Nathan stiffened. I never told you about that. You didn't have to. She stood, moving toward him. You think your walls protect you, but they only trap the pain inside. Let me show you something. Before he could react, she pressed her forehead to his. Suddenly, he was floating in a sea of sensation, not just his own emotions, but hers too. He felt her fascination with him, her genuine desire to help, and something deeper, warmer, growing stronger each day. When she pulled back, Nathan felt dizzy. What was that? Emotional sharing. Among my people, it's how we truly know each other. Her fingers traced his jawline. You humans try so hard to connect while keeping yourselves hidden. It must be exhausting. Maybe we hide for a reason, he said, though he didn't move away from her touch. Yes. Fear of pain. Fear of loss. Her eyes met his. But what you fail to understand is that the walls you build to keep pain out also keep joy at bay. A notification chimed on Nathan's tablet, breaking the moment. New information about their suspect. The corporation behind the theft was moving fast, preparing to test their stolen technology. We should focus on the case, Nathan said, stepping back. Lyra smiled knowingly. Always hiding behind work. But you can't hide your feelings from me, Nathan Reed. I know what's growing between us frightens you. Not because I'm alien, but because it's real. As they began planning their next move, Nathan couldn't deny she was right. The case was leading them into dangerous territory, but his greatest fear wasn't the powerful people they were hunting, it was the way this ethereal being was systematically dismantling every defense he'd ever built, and how much he wanted to let her. The Omnidine Corporation's research facility loomed against the night sky, its quantum-shielded walls gleaming under artificial lights. Nathan and Lyra crouched behind a maintenance shed, watching security drones patrol the perimeter. Their minds are focused, determined, Lyra whispered, reading the emotional signatures of the guards inside. They're protecting something important tonight. The security guard's testimony led straight here, Nathan replied, checking his neural dampener. Omnidine's been developing consciousness-affecting technology for years. Morrison's research was the missing piece they needed. Lyra touched his arm, sending a shiver through his nervous system. Nathan, wait. There's something else. Her eyes widened in the darkness. They have someone in there. Someone whose mind feels wrong. Fractured. They're testing the technology already. Before Nathan could respond, alarms blared across the compound. That's impossible, he muttered. They couldn't have spotted us yet. No, Lyra's voice was tight with tension. They're not reacting to us. Something's wrong inside. The test subject, their mind is breaking free. Security forces rushed toward the main building. In the chaos, Nathan and Lyra slipped through a side entrance. The corridors were eerily empty, emergency lights casting red shadows across sterile walls. They found the testing chamber in sublevel 3. Inside, a man was strapped to a chair, quantum interfaces attached to his temples. He thrashed violently, his eyes glowing with an unnatural light. Dear God, Nathan breathed. That's William Porter, Morrison's research partner. He didn't disappear, they took him. Lyra stepped forward, her face contorted in pain. His mind, they've tried to override it using Morrison's technology. But it's fighting back. Suddenly, Porter's head snapped toward them. Help, me. He gasped. The data, in my head, can't let them. Security forces burst through the door behind them. Nathan spun, ready to fight, but Lyra was faster. She raised her hands, and the guards stopped mid-stride, their faces going blank. I can't hold them long, she gritted out. The quantum interfaces are amplifying their mental resistance. Nathan rushed to Porter, starting to disconnect the equipment. Hang on, we're getting you out of here. No time, Porter whispered. Too late for me. Take this. His hand shot out, gripping Lyra's wrist. Energy crackled between them, and Lyra gasped. What did you do? Nathan demanded as Porter slumped in the chair. Gave her everything. The research. The proof. My memories. Porter's eyes began to dim. Morrison died, protecting this. Don't let them control our minds. Lyra stumbled, and Nathan caught her as Porter's life signs flatlined. The guards behind them began to shake off her influence. Nathan, she said urgently, her eyes glowing with residual energy. I have it all. Everything we need to expose them. But they'll never let us leave with it. He looked at her, this beautiful alien who'd breached every wall he'd built, who now held the key to a conspiracy that could change everything. Then we better run fast. They ran, through corridors and past confused guards, Lyra using her enhanced abilities to cloud minds and redirect pursuit. But as they reached the exit, a figure stepped out of the shadows, Omnidyne's head of research, Dr. Richard Hammond. Fascinating, he said, raising a quantum pulse weapon. A meridian telepath. You'll make an excellent next test subject. The weapon hummed to life, but before it could fire, Nathan threw himself forward. The blast caught him in the shoulder, sending him spinning to the ground. Nathan. Lyra's scream held more than just fear, it carried a telepathic pulse that dropped everyone in the corridor except Nathan. She rushed to his side, hands glowing as she pressed them to his wound. We have to go, he gasped through the pain. While they're down. She helped him up, supporting his weight as they fled into the night. Behind them, secondary alarms began to sound, but they were already running toward Nathan's waiting vehicle, carrying with them the evidence that would shake the foundations of human-alien relations forever. As they sped through the dark streets, Lyra keeping Nathan conscious through their mental link, neither of them spoke about the way her fear of losing him had unleashed power she didn't know she had. Or about how, in that moment of crisis, their minds had connected more deeply than any human and Meridian ever had before. Those conversations would come later. For now, they focused on survival, even as their newly forged bond hummed between them like a living thing, refusing to be ignored. 3 days after the Omnidyne incident, Nathan sat in his office, watching news headlines scroll across his holodisplay. Corporate giant implicated in illegal mind control research. Whistleblower deaths connected to quantum consciousness program. Human-Alien Relations Committee launches investigation. His shoulder still ached where the quantum pulse had struck him, but Lyra's healing abilities had prevented any permanent damage. She sat across from him now, her silvery hair catching the morning light, looking more human than ever despite the gentle glow in her eyes, a lingering effect of absorbing Porter's memories. The evidence is irrefutable, she said, watching the headlines with him. Porter's memories, combined with Morrison's hidden research data, prove everything. Omnidyne's entire board is being arrested as we speak. And Hammond? Found trying to flee off-world. The Meridian Council has offered to hold him in a telepathic containment facility. She smiled slightly. We take attempted mind control very seriously. Nathan leaned back, studying her. Since their escape, something had changed between them, their connection deeper, more resonant. He could feel echoes of her emotions even without physical contact now. You're wondering about us, she said softly. About what happened that night, when you were shot. The way our minds merged. I've never heard of a human and a Meridian forming that kind of bond. It's never been documented before. She stood, moving around his desk to face him. My people have theories about emotional compatibility transcending species, but this. She touched his cheek, and immediately their connection flared to life, warm and electric. This is something new. Nathan caught her hand, holding it against his face. Is that why you really took this case? You sensed this potential between us? I took this case because something felt important about it. About you. Her other hand came up to cradle his face. I didn't expect to find someone whose mind would call to mine so strongly. Whose emotions would match my own so perfectly. Even the broken parts, he asked, thinking of his past, his fears, all the walls she'd somehow slipped through. Especially those parts. She leaned closer, her breath warm against his lips. Your pain, your strength, your determination to help others despite your own wounds, they make you who you are. And who you are, Nathan Reed, is someone I want to know completely. He stood, drawing her closer. It won't be easy. Humans aren't used to this kind of connection. Hell, I'm still getting used to having someone in my head. Good thing you have an expert to help you navigate it. Her eyes sparkled with amusement. Besides, you're already adapting. I can feel your emotions becoming clearer, more focused. You're learning to reach for me mentally just as naturally as you reach for me physically. As if to prove her point, he felt her happiness and desire flowing into him through their contact, mingling with his own emotions until he couldn't tell where his feelings ended and hers began. It should have been frightening, this level of intimacy, but instead it felt like coming home. What happens now? He asked, though he could feel her answer in the way her emotions wrapped around his. Now. We solve more cases. Help more people. Learn what this connection between us can really do. She smiled, and he felt her joy radiating through him. And maybe, we show others that the space between human and alien hearts isn't as vast as they think. Nathan pulled her closer, finally closing the distance between them. As their lips met, their minds entwined just as completely, creating something entirely new, a bridge between species, between worlds, between two souls who had found each other across the vast expanse of space. In the years to come, their story would become legend in both human and Meridian society, the detective and the telepath who broke down barriers and solved impossible cases. But in that moment, they weren't thinking about legacy or legend. They were thinking about the mystery they'd solved together, the walls they'd broken down, and the future stretching out before them, a future neither of them would have to face alone. Outside Nathan's office window, the sun rose over Los Angeles, its light catching the quantum towers and alien architecture that now dotted the skyline. Somewhere in that city, another case waited for them, another mystery to solve. But for now, they stayed wrapped in their private moment, two beings from different worlds who had found something extraordinary in each other, proof that love, in all its forms, truly knows no boundaries.